anybody has a question, we'd love to hear from you and what your concerns are. Moving right along, can we get approved the agenda, please?
I would like to make a motion to approve a revised agenda. Under new business as the last item, I'd like to add an action where we accept David's resignation letter, unfortunately, but it's business that we need to do.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, against, yeah, we've got her passed. Lacey, do we have to have two motions on that, or will that one cover it?
That will be fine because I did not make an original motion. The very first motion was to amend the agenda, so it's fine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're welcome.
moving right along.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
did you get a unanimous vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay, it was
I don't
good for
doubt
me to
you're-
know.
All righty. We have no special, well, wait a minute. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
All right, it's been moved. We've got a second by Mark, so it moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we passed that. Thank you very much. No special presentations, no unfinished business, new business, except the 2020 audit report. Could I have a motion on that, please?
I move that we accept the audit report as it's attached in our board book.
Okay, and we've got a second. Mark seconded. Any discussion or comments? Any questions? Mark?
Yeah, I kind of breezed through it, and most of it might as well have been written in Greek. But I did pick out two important parts. On page 68, it said the district is in substantial compliance, and 72 says no incidents of non-compliance were found. Those were the two biggest ones for me, so that was it. In other words, I guess we did very well in the audit. Is that a safe assumption?
Larry, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I would agree with what his assessment there. There was a material weakness in the prior year that was remedied as well. So there was big improvement. The weakness from last year was related to just the timeliness of bank reconciliations. So I think you're on good footing now. We're moving ahead with some change in personnel, but yeah, the audit went very well. So
Thank you.
Cool. Great.
happy
Any
to
other
answer any
questions?
other questions if you have any.
Kansas?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I know we have some people watching tonight. So would it be appropriate for us to do a short an explanation of what this was and why we do it?
Larry, you want to speak to that, please?
Sure. Yeah, there's a requirement in Oregon revised statutes that requires every municipality in the state of Oregon to have a licensed municipal auditor audit their financial records and report on them. So there's a couple different moving parts here. There's the if you want to look at page 1, 2, 3, that's the auditor's opinion, independent auditor's report. And there at the bottom of page 1 is the opinion. And then later in that opinion, you'll see a mention of, at the very end of it, it talks about other reports. And one of those is on government auditing standards, which is relates to the fact that the school district expends more than $750,000 in federal funds, which requires a single audit, and government auditing standards apply. So there's a government auditing standards opinion in the back. There's also an opinion on major programs, major federal awards. And then there's an Oregon minimum standards opinion, which I think it was Mark referred to on page 68. So there's Oregon minimum standards requires, and if you want to look at that opinion on page 68, there's a list of items there that's not all inclusive, but that Oregon minimum standards requires the auditor to address. And that's things such as collateralization of deposits, budget compliance, legal, making sure you're not exceeding your legal debt limits, public contracts and purchasing, state school fund factors that affect your revenue stream, those types of things. And so there's that opinion. And then past that, you'll see a schedule of expenditure of federal awards, which is just over $1 million or almost $1 million in different programs. And then just past that, you'll have the government auditing standards opinion, which is on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. Then we'll have the uniform guidance opinion, which follows that, which is the opinion on major programs, which are then enumerated on page 76. So there was 2 major programs this year. One was Title I and the other was handicap IDEA, which is referred to as a cluster because there's a couple of different programs that have similar compliance requirements. So those major programs are part of the single audit of federal awards, which those 2 programs were audited as if they were their own audits. So each of those 2 programs was audited as a separate standalone audit. And but all the results on that page 76 kind of summarizes all of the financial statement audit, the federal awards audit, and it's all good news there. So
Great,
that's
thank you
kind of
very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for being here tonight, Kevin. Or Larry. There's a Kevin that goes with Larry too. So
Yeah, Kevin's had another appointment tonight, so.
Okay, if not any other questions, all those in favor to accept the 2020 audit report, please raise your hand. Good, we're there. Thank you very much. Larry, thank you very, very much for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me tonight.
All righty, moving right along. Now, Mike, I show on mine information on the MOU. Can you address that for us?
yeah. So in your packet, you'll see a memorandum of understanding. That's the MOU. And where that comes from is our bargaining agreements with our Creswell Education Association and our classified OSEA group. And typically those agreements, well, all of our agreements were developed under normal working conditions in a normal working environment. So due to the changing working conditions for CDL and on-site in-person learning that are needed to address COVID-19, that moved our district operations and working conditions away from what was normal and familiar to us as educators. And it required us to restructure working agreements with our associations. The conditions changed, the work changed, and we have to have agreements around that. When we moved to CDL, we developed a memorandum of understanding for the changes that we needed to accommodate the new work when moving to that model. And I provided you that MOU early in the year. That was the first MOU. A second MOU came along when we started to get into the teacher evaluation process or certified evaluation. So we developed an MOU because that's one of our operating procedures. But we had new conditions in which teachers were teaching. So we had a new evaluation system or procedures for that. So we had to develop an MOU that would be compliant with the bargaining agreement. And then now we're going to on-site in-person learning under an entirely different new environment with new conditions. So we developed another MOU to accommodate the necessary changes for that work, the work that we just implemented and we will continue with. Neither of these MOUs affected salary or benefits to our employees. Therefore, I'm not asking for approval for the MOU, but I'm providing this for you as information about what we agreed to in order to meet the needs of our staff during this transition of going to on-site in-person learning. So there you have it's almost, it's like a piece of art. I mean, this is a big deal. And I so appreciate our associations. I met with both association leaders. I have been meeting with them over the past couple of months, maybe, to prepare for this. And so it's been a work in progress, but we signed it up today and we have agreement with it. And so now we're in good standing for moving forward with the work into this new learning mode. Anybody have any questions on that memorandum? There's kind of a lot of stuff in there, but
So I had one question, and it really starts at the beginning. Do we have enough janitorial staff to work within 1A?
wow, you're good. No, we don't.
Yeah.
And this was actually when I arrived to Creswell, was kind of on the hopes and dreams list to add FTE into this area. Well, with the expansion of technology and the huge mountain of needs for technology that fell upon us with this movement when we shut down, we had to get some space for Joel to be able to focus on technology and facilities and try to figure out a way to have someone to supervise custodial. So we went back to an old model and we hired a lead custodian to oversee the custodial services that we have in our department in our district. So we brought that in as a head custodian, and then we added a 0.5 FTE custodian, another half-time position in there. And we're now hiring. We put all hires on a freeze for cost cutting during CDL for positions that were not necessary and critical for our operations. And now that we're moving into on-site learning, we need more custodial services in our building. So we are now going through that hiring process to bring that 1.5 FTE in.
Okay.
And we may find that that's not enough and we'll have to have another 0.5. So the 0.5 that we're hiring comes with a caveat that we may need that person for full-time so we can build that FTE to full-time while we're going through this intensive sanitization kind of model that we're headed into. It's a wild one.
Okay.
But we're preparing for the worst, hope for the best. But we'll have the resources that we need, the support staff that we need for that. Good question.
I have one more question. 2C, the committee between CEA and administrators, has that work already begun? Or is that scheduled to begin?
We're one of those districts that we're really high on collaboration. So our principals have been collaborating with our staffs, not so much as one committee, but as many committees, different grade levels, different site teams and such and so on. But because of all the changes that are occurring with this work, OEA, the Oregon Education Association, wants to make sure that there are standards in bargaining agreements around specific areas. And one of those areas is that their members get input into the plan development for moving into these different learning modes. Back in August, we had 40 staff members district-wide, and Candace, I think you went to one of those meetings, and that was the highest collaboration that you could imagine of having in a district to develop a blueprint plan to go into the fall. And we have been continuing with that work all the way through as we've worked things out. You know, we've brought in supports with the input from all of our staffs and our employee groups. But in this one, in the new RSSL guidance, there's language around mandatory representation in developing blueprints for operating procedures in schools. And so on their behalf, OEA wanted to be certain that that was on the table.
So does that mean it's in progress?
Oh no, we're in full go. These teams have been fully operating in collaboration for a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks or so, to develop these blueprints. And they're continuing blueprint plans for returning students to school for on-site in-person learning.
Okay.
But they've had committees go in for CDL. But yeah, it's an ongoing process for us, and the plans are developed.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Lacey, did you have a question?
I really just wanted to make a comment. I think anytime that I've been on the board and I see it continuing, that we've had our teachers and our classified staff come to the table and want to talk things through, that our administration, it's been very collaborative. And it seems like even in a very tense situation with the virus and not knowing things, and there's still a lot of questions still unknown, it feels like that collaboration was still there. And I just really appreciate our administration for going with an open ear and asking questions and trying to understand what our teachers and all of our folks. Sorry, I hit my space bar and I apparently muted myself. And I just want to express my appreciation to everyone around the table that came up with this MOU to get our kids back in the building. That's my main point. Just a huge thank you for everyone for engaging in open, good faith dialogue. So thank you, everyone around the table.
I actually have one quick question on the childcare for hybrid employees, which I think, as a mother, I think it's wonderful that they're able to do that. If teachers are bringing their children to school, is that taking away the number of students that can be in the classroom?
That could take a spot. They could take a spot, but we haven't hit a maximum or even close to it in any of the cohorts that we have in the planning.
Okay,
So
great.
that's all looking really good. The other thing is that while we've been in our discussions to develop this, other school districts have opened up a little bit for Lippy and started to bring their kids back for on-site learning, and they will be over the next few weeks. So the need for doing that, and that's for school-age children, by the way, only kindergarten on up. And so that's not going to be much of an impact. We surveyed our staff as well as to what the need would be for that. And we didn't see any numbers that stood out to us. So all looking good.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And some of our principals can add in there too, and Aguero on that, Amy Aguero, because our principals have been in discussions, endless discussions over these blueprint plans and things. So they know a lot about what's gone into this with the work. They had they had their input into it as well. So, but that first, under the date there, that first statement was put in there at the request of our CEA president. I mean, that tells you how good they feel about collaboration with their building level administrators to get those plans to where they need to be. It's really highly collaborative at all three buildings. Did you have another question?
Any other questions out there?
Did Amy have her hand up? Did she have something?
Well, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I just wanted to clarify the childcare thing. The three of us administrators at each building are working really hard to help each other figure out, especially for Creswell School District staff who have students in our district, how we can coordinate. So if we have staff who are needing to be in person, we're trying to make sure that those students are in person as well. So we're trying to coordinate that. And just being really creative so we can help our teachers be able to be less stressed about being a parent at the same time as doing their job. So that's just one other layer of us trying to coordinate with each other and find ways to bring those kids in what's appropriate for their education, but also to help their parents.
I love it. I think it's really wonderful. It would help a lot of people if they could take their kids to work with them.
Yeah, and I saw Julie shaking her head no as well when Mike said, I don't believe that there will be any circumstance where a student would take the place of a Creswell student. We will find a way to work with our staff and also being able to serve our students to the best of our ability. So, yeah.
You guys are awesome.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, this is David, and I just want to say, wow, this just speaks so highly of the administrators and how you are collaborating with your teachers and families. And, I just feel so good about something like this, where again, tonight I'm hearing K through 12. And I just think it's actually beautiful to see in such a challenging time when our world, we just never experienced anything like this. We're doing things people have been against for so long, people working from home. We're seeing productivity even up. Well, less distractions for some people, maybe not everybody, but I just wanted to really compliment everybody for your efforts and achievements in making this happen. And I just love, like what Amy just shared, we're being resourceful, we're being creative, how can we make this work? How do we help a teacher? How do we help any employee? And so it's really wonderful.
Any other comments or questions? If not, let's move along to the approved collective sponsorship application. Could we get a motion for that, please?
Did you guys understand that? Did you want a little information on that?
Well, that's my next thing is
sorry.
I thought we had to get a
move.
motion, and then I'm coming right at you, Mike. Okay,
You
it's
want me to
been
move?
moved and seconded. Okay, what in the world is that?
Wait, did someone second?
Yeah, can we
thought-
do that just a little bit slower? Candace,
Okay.
can you actually make the motion verbally? That
Yeah.
helps me. Thank you.
Yes, I move to approve, or are we accepting? I move to accept the MOU.
Or no,
Oh,
not the MOU.
we-
This is the collective sponsorship application.
Oh, I'm
The other
sorry.
one was just information.
I didn't hear that. I can move to accept the collective sponsorship application between Creswell and Pleasant Hill.
Thank you.
Okay, and we've got Lacey second.
David, you still,
Okay, all righty. It's been moved and seconded. Okay, Mike, would you give us a couple details there, please?
I will. Brandon,
Yeah.
All right. So last year, the OSA approved a way for more kids to participate in individual sports. So essentially in basketball or in football, if you want to have someone play from another school that doesn't have it, you have to count both schools ADM, you move classifications. It's a really, it happens sometimes, but it's not as clean cut. The collective sponsorship basically just says that someone wants to play an individual sport, tennis, golf, swimming, that they don't have it at their school. So they want to come, be under the tutelage of our coaches, use our facilities, pay our fees. But when they compete, they're actually going to compete for the school that they're from. So we have a brother and a sister from Pleasant Hill that play tennis privately, that want to play in high school tennis. Pleasant Hill doesn't have a tennis team. So they would essentially come to us, be coached, go to the meets, but when they compete in the meets, they would be with Pleasant Hill and compete for Pleasant Hill.
And you said we have a student in this situation. That's specifically why we're doing this.
That's what we're you guys are approving right now, is to make that happen. We have a brother and a sister that have requested it.
Okay.
And Brandon, they go on our transportation with us, correct?
Generally, yes, that'd be the easiest way to go. But when Mike and I talked, we talked, in the COVID scenario, and I talked to Pleasant Hill's idea that they will actually transport themselves to the meets or the matches.
So now that this is opened up to these two students, does it open it up for Pleasant Hill other students to do it, or do we have to approve it every time?
I can't remember actually what the application is, if it's yearly or bi-yearly. There's a couple different ones, different things. But theoretically, yes. I mean, it could open that up. Generally speaking, it's not that common, just because it's people that typically, a lot of individuals will do it privately. But the hope is like an RA, that it gives us a chance, and somewhere down the road, it's kind of a pay it forward deal where we may have someone that want to swim at Cottage Grove or go to South or whatever and do that. So it's one of those things that we can kind of take care of people and help out other schools and get more students involved.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions for Brandon?
So as I'm looking at the application, Brandon, I love the idea, love being able to help out any kid that wants to play and compete. So that's overall. The application under transportation says unknown to be determined. Will that state whether it's our responsibility or Pleasant Hill by the time you submit this online? Because it looks like this is an online submission.
Yeah, we can edit that now that we know that before Mike submits it.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be an important risk factor for us to understand in advance as to whether we're assuming the risk of that or whether they are. So
yeah, that form's super easy. The hardest part is the superintendent's signature and the school board approval, because it's obviously a time thing on that one, because you guys only meet once a month. So the application piece is easy to fix and redo if we have to.
Okay, yeah. So I love this.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's great. Any other questions? Comments? All righty. If not, all those in favor. Yeah, what?
I said thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Thank you for being here. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Where go? Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out tonight. All righty, post-revive policies. We've got a bunch of them. Candace, do you want to give us kind of a 10,000 foot level of what those are?
Yes, and Marilyn and Mike, please feel free to jump in. So the policy committee has met. There are 6 policies that we have needed to review. All have changes that have been recommended by OSBA. We've reviewed them as a committee and taken the recommended language. At this point, we didn't take any language that wasn't recommended. There were some that we omitted that we were allowed to accept or reject. All at this point either have to do with OFLA-FEMLA, so the Oregon Family Medical Leave Act or the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, and or Title IX. And so these are all things that we needed to either update, and none of them are new policies to us. They're all updates. Marilyn, did I state that correctly? You're on mute. Yep, there we go.
Yes, yes, you
Thank
did. That's right. Perfectly
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions for Candace on those?
Ooh,
Don't we have to have a motion to post those? Could we get a motion to post those in a second, please? We kind of got the cart before the horse there, but that's okay.
are these the ones we posted last month, or these are not?
These are new ones, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
these are all new. Yeah. Could I get a motion, please?
Can I make a motion, or does that have to be
Sure.
someone else?
Yeah.
Okay, I move to post the 6 policies outlined in the agenda. Do I have to read the names?
No,
Okay.
no, they're as printed or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, we've got a second. Deb seconded. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're passed. All righty, thank you very much. All righty, moving right along.
Hey, Mike, real
yeah.
quick, Marilyn, are we going slow enough for you in the voting that you can see votes? Sometimes I wonder whether we go too fast.
I'll let you know.
Okay, all right, I'll trust that. I just wanted to check in real quick.
I go till I see a screen full of hands and then I say done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Applications for budget committee members. We got word out about the budget committee that we were short some people, and Lon and Sarah, their term was up and they resubmitted applications to be on the budget committee. And that leaves us with one open spot. So we can do this 2 ways. We can vote to put them on back on the committee. Both of them have been on the budget committee for years. We can vote them back on, and then we can put out a notice for 1 budget member. Or I guess we could do it the other way and not appoint them and put the notice out for 3. And then when the time frame's up, go through the process then. But Lon and Sarah have been around on the committee for a long time, and they have reapplied. So I think in the past, we've done it both ways. We've appointed them at a meeting, and we've waited until we've got in all the applications. So I guess it's kind of out there for what we want to do. But any comments or anything to kind of give us some guidance there, what you want to do?
This is David, and I would recommend that we appoint both applicants and then post for the single, and then you're that much more ahead. That's a tough committee to fill. Historically, maybe that's going to change in the future, but I would let's move forward. I would recommend.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I agree with that, because when we've posted these, we've posted them until open or until filled, I believe. And so kind of with that rolling date, I think we should just fill what we have and hope we get another.
I would agree with that. They've been good members of the committee, and they've been around for a long time, and they've reapplied. So do we have a motion to vote them in?
I move to appoint both Lon Robertson and Sarah Klein to our 2 of our budget committee vacancies, and repost for the 3rd and hopefully last remaining budget committee vacancy.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll
Okay,
second.
it's moved and seconded. Candace seconded, Marilyn. Okay, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got a bunch of hands, so we're good. Unanimous, Marilyn. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving right along, the ELL report. Is Bethany with us?
No, she's not here with us, but I just wanted to bring this into you. I had a meeting with Bethany. We got a rating back this year from ODE on our ELL program and how our students performed on the assessment. And we talked about that for a bit. And then she kind of processed it and sent me this information. And I wanted to include it in this report because you hear a lot of stuff out there about equity and this being an inequitable situation, and some of our disadvantaged students are being impacted and falling farther and further behind and not going to be able to catch up in this gap. Yet in one of our most disadvantaged groups who come to us with language barrier, and they can't process our curriculum that's set up in a standard English presentation, and yet they're excelling as a whole group district-wide. And I thought this was astounding. I shared it with Lacey and Mike at our leadership meeting, and I just received it from her. And they thought this was something that should be shared across the board. And but they are doing a great job with our English learners, and the kids themselves are thriving with this online program or format with the Zoom, and the writing is what she's alluding to, and writing will increase student achievement quicker than any other skill out there for learning. And anyway, that's just one of those things you should know. You didn't know, you should know. I didn't know it, and I thought, wow, that's heck yeah.
I think that's great. That's got to be hard because of the language difference to get to that point. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing to me. Any comments or questions out there?
I would just like to comment and maybe question or have Mr. Johnson affirm for us. So I think this is pretty cool that we've got a group that would normally be considered in our achievement gap. You know, prior to COVID, we had certain groups where it seemed like they were underperforming what we were hoping that they would. And through this, the staff have found an opportunity where it actually helps them excel and succeed. And so I guess I'm looking for affirmation that now that we've found this cool approach, that even as we go back into the building and as some students that have been, you know, that are around my kids say, I want to get back to normal, I'm hoping that we take these lessons and we don't go back to normal for them. That if we've learned that this is a cool approach, that we somehow figure out how to keep the customizations that are working. And I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to lose the lesson. If it's working for some kids, I want to be able to keep that for them. So I guess Mike's shaking his head like, yep, I'm thinking the same way he is. And I'm sure his team are miles ahead.
Well, you know, the thing is this is not a universal outcome. It's the passion of the people here in the district that are doing this work. Bethany and her folks that are working together, that are providing this for the kids. And with them, they have developed skills, or they brought skills that have helped develop this online. And everything that we can do to encourage that, we're going to do. We're going to support them. If they need more programs, they need more technology, whatever they need, and they want to go to a 50-50 inside, remote, that's you have to be flexible beyond this, beyond where we're at right now. And so, yeah, these are one of the things that will stay with us for long term. Just how do we continue to capitalize on it, and how can we continue to make improvements along the way. But we're onto something with this, or they're leading it. I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, that this is how it's come around for us.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Mike. It's nice to know that we have bright spots in the middle of sometimes what feels like chaos to others.
Well, this is one disadvantaged group, but Amy Aguero can talk to other successes that are happening around the district with students that are also have been traditionally in those gaps too, and their experiences, right, Amy?
I can. I can also talk about that during my board report. So either way.
Okay, we'll let you. Okay, well, I don't want to steal your thunder. We'll wait till it's board.
I'm happy to. If you all have questions, I'm happy to speak to what I'm able to. Yeah.
So you have more comment on that.
Perfect.
Good.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, moving right along, the Rssl update, Mike.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this to upload. I'm hoping it does. There it goes. Do you all have this slideshow up on your screen, on your side? No. As we've been moving through this the last month, since the changes have come about, the governor and her announcement almost on Christmas Day, thanks. But there's a lot of this slideshow that has really come around to us since that time. And I just kind of wanted to go over this because there's a lot of information in here that may lead to questions, or maybe information that you want to know and didn't ask, but it's out there. So I just kind of wanted to take a few minutes to go through that. And if you go to slide 2, and you'll see what the topics were for the day. And then go into slide 3. And it talks about, decision making and jumping ahead of where you think you're controlling this, but really you're not. It's the virus that's controlling all this. And David knows this. He talks about this. He has talked about it to us. But just to be on the same page, so everybody knows that first and foremost, what the virus does dictates what we do in our community and in our schools. So the metrics comes into play for us down the road here in this presentation. But there's a lot of hands in the pot to tell you how to respond to the virus. When you're looking at all these government agencies, I'm looking at 6 to 8 a week that I'm processing these things with. OHA, Lane County Public Health, ODE, OSBA, PACE, COSA. It's just all those are government agencies. Every week I process it with them. There's a lot of hands in this that is responding to this virus and giving direction to schools, to superintendents. Moving to the keys to returning to in-person instruction. I've been talking about how I've been assessing our situation and the moves that we can make out of CDL or into CDL, and looking at the communities that we overlap with Eugene and Springfield, and how critical it is to know how the virus is spreading in those communities, because those communities come into our community, Creswell, all day long, every day. And then we have the Creswell community itself and how the virus is moving or spreading through our community. So knowing both of those is what number 1 talks about there. And then aligning what's happening with the communities, all 3, Eugene, Springfield, and Creswell, to the guidance and the metrics. That's the formula, really. And then how to put protocols in place, or what protocols are effective to put into place to make it safe. The state of the nation, that's kind of history now. Since this slide, that's been 2 weeks ago, we've broken records all across the country, so that's not even relevant anymore, but a whole lot of impact going on with that virus. The variant, we have cases of the variant now, and it's assumed that we have cases of the variant here in Lane County. It's in Oregon, and it's assumed that it's everywhere, really. Well, in the metro I-5 corridor. Maybe not so much over in Eastern Oregon just yet, but it's assumed that it's in these communities with high populations, the larger communities in Oregon. The local decision making in the next slide. But let's move past that and go to the vaccination update. So we've been working on vaccination since then. Back at this point, this is 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, we were told that we were setting up clinics in our districts and staffing them. Then there was a huge shift in the guidance or direction from OHA, which caused another pivot from me, which caused another plan to distribute the vaccines to our district. But in all, what they were saying, Kate Brown said, is to ODE is get those superintendents coordinating this distribution for school districts. And so that's what that direction is about. And the update on the vaccine for our district is that for 3 weeks now, this is week 3, we have been, our staff have been receiving vaccines. So out of our 69 licensed staff members, 61 responded back to me, 88%, that they wanted to receive the vaccine, 61. Of our classified staff of 72, about 33, maybe 45% responded back that they wanted to receive the vaccine. So in the first 2 weeks, that's going to get us to, when we look at all staff included, that's about 100. And then we have other associated staff, substitute teachers, early learning providers, and coaches that are not on staff and such. So, you know, we get to about 120 total. But just looking at our on-staff folks there, we have about 100 or a little over 100 staff who wanted to get the vaccination here in this distribution. 40 the first week received it, 40 the second week received it, and by the end of this week, 100% of those who indicated to me they wanted the vaccine will have had it, the first inoculation. And so then we'll be going through the same process again when the second round comes through for the second dose in 4 weeks. The timing of that is that by mid-March, all of our staff would have had their first and second vaccines, and we'd be fully inoculated as far as everyone who wanted it. Which totals up to about 75% of our entire staff, or maybe a little more, 78%. Any questions on that one? Because that was a mouthful. No. So I went from a medical assessment coordinator for the metrics and all of the Rssl guidance and trying to provide medical direction for our movements in the districts for instructional modes and what we're doing, to vaccine coordinator. And I was so excited to have that promotion. It's just been a blast. But all kidding aside, that's been a really rewarding for me to know, to make sure that the staff who felt they wanted this got it in the arm. And I can confidently say that happened. And I know who, well, I just know who received it, that wanted it. And that's a good feeling for me. And I think for them it was too, because there was no real confusion about who, how, when, where, and I mean, and trying to figure out or wait in line for 2-3 hours somewhere where they, I mean, you know, it just, that was really good for our lane ESD to coordinate that with OHA so that we could really take that in our own hands and make sure that it went the way it did. There's too much out there, too much things going on. So the next slide talks about prioritizing how we're going to vaccine, who's going to get the vaccine and stuff. Testing update and getting into this thing of providing COVID testing on site in schools. That's been Biden's thing. He's been saying everybody's going to be receiving on-site testing and results within 7 minutes, I think is what he said. I don't know, but that's his push. And we are now registered for that. It's required if you're not operating within the metrics. So if your case count says that you cannot have hybrid in-person learning, but you have hybrid in-person learning anyway, you're required to have on-site testing for anyone who has possibly COVID-19, anyone who demonstrates symptoms. So now we're moving to on-site communicable diseases testing. That's our next plan that we're kind of working on, or will be anyway. Amy Aguero is going to be working on that with Melissa, but we made a decision to get registered for it. We have no intention of operating outside of the metrics, but if this is going to be business as usual for Biden, we really need to have a handle on it before that happens. Yes, Candace.
Sorry, and I don't know this, what does registered mean? Like,
Okay, good question. Glad you asked that. So we have to register with the state that we want to go through the training and procedures for implementing and providing on-site COVID-19 testing.
So like registered with OHA or something like that?
With OHA.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Aguero, did you want to add to that one?
Sure. I mean, we're very much, Candace, in the preliminary steps, but yeah, registering is just kind of getting us, Creswell School District, into the mode of getting trained up, and whether or not we end up actually implementing this in school will be the next step that we take. So right now we are getting trained, we're getting the information, and we're getting our name out there to be part of that process. Should our district choose to implement the BINACs as the preliminary thought on the testing mechanism into our schools. It's self-administered. So, and it would be by written permission by the parent if we were to administer or allow for those to be administered by the student. But it could, I mean, there's a lot of research right now that shows that it really could help support just whether or not we have a positive case on campus and how to be preemptive about supporting those efforts.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a good thing to have to help our staff feel safer, knowing that we have the ability to do this. So, but in all, as Amy alluded to have a plan and be prepared is better than the alternative. If something happens and you're not prepared, it's not going to work well. So, thank you, Amy. And then moving down to liability. Are you on that slide? Everyone see where I'm at? I'm not losing anyone, right? So we've talked about this, and this was the talk way back when she first announced her shift and the change to the metrics, and it was being developed to put out to us in the guidance. But even early on, the consensus, well, the rule was that you will have no liability insurance, period. There is none for communicable diseases for schools. There is none. We have a $50,000 maximum provision from PACE, our legal provider, for legal fees, but not damages. And House Bill 4402 will protect you if you're following all the guidance, all the protocols and the metrics. And this was made clear again Tuesday. That was yesterday, by God, it seems like it was last week, but yesterday by Jim Green at OSBA PACE. And he said, let me be absolutely clear with no confusion. You have no liability coverage, period. You have a provision for fees for legal representation up to $50,000 max. That's it. From there, you're on your own. If there's damages, you're on your own. And if you're outside of the metrics, then don't look to House Bill 4402 to protect you from a lawsuit or from being sued in court. If you're within the metrics and you're following the protocols and you can demonstrate that, then what House Bill 4402 says is you're not going to need to go to court. We're going to dismiss this. So there's a protection, but there's not liability. So any questions on that one? No, okay. So my game plan is to stay within the metrics and follow all the protocols. And so Joel and the principals and the administrators and Amy, the whole A team has been working on the protocols and how to roll those out and make sure that they're followed religiously. We started with small groups in our schools to work with that, work out the kinks, kind of get to know what we didn't know. And now this week we've expanded into more groups into the schools, and the principals will talk to you about that a little bit later. But that's our game plan. We're going to do what we're allowed to do within the metrics, which means what the virus is doing, we're working with. We're navigating that virus to do what we can do to bring kids in. But we're not going to go beyond what we can do, what the metrics say we can safely do. Possible January dates, Rssl. That came out, the guidance came out on the 19th. And on the 25th, I had 5 revisions within that guidance. 5. And those weren't little ones. Those were big ones. And then Monday and Tuesday, I provided with, on the agenda in my report, the ones that we are processing this week, and there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 more that we are processing now for implementation or understanding how to implement them under the guidance. So it's a work in progress. There's always changes all week long. And then you get to the metrics and protocols, the big picture, and what they see out there, the metrics are going to change. They're going to change and adapt to what the virus is doing. If we have this huge surge and implosion of the variant, well, then we're going to see a reaction from the health authorities and ODE on the metrics and what kind of modes we should be in with bringing our community into our schools, kids. And so, and what happens to the community at large? Metrics is always going to be responding to what's happening with the virus. Over the last year, what they've said is the three things will continue to be to make things safer. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and keep your distance. You know, that's not going to change, they say to us. And then it kind of gives us a little forecast on what the metrics would have been, which they are now. So that's already history. And then from there on, we went into training on that date into all of this. And, but that helps me kind of frame some of the training or processing that I've been involved in with this, and where I go, the team goes. So we all come along once I'm in there. So any questions on all that? I hope that helped some of the confusion or kind of the things you might not have known that you know now, or maybe just confirm some things that you already knew. David, you knew all this.
I have a question, Mike.
Yeah.
So unless I missed it, this is all the protocols for in the school. What kind of a solution have we come up for transportation?
Oh, these aren't all the protocols. There's 168 protocols for schools to open to kids. And these are just the highlights of the whole movement of bringing in the new metrics and the new guidance. This was it. Okay. Transportation is, I'm glad you asked that, because Lacey asked that during our leadership meeting. And I'll let Joel's going to talk a little bit about some of the adjustments we've made, but this is what I responded to Lacey's question with, which was a really good one. When we were ordered into the shutdown, we had to redesign into everything that we did. So that means we had to move staff into positions that they were not hired for and train them up in new training to be able to take on our new system. So we took bus drivers and put them into classrooms, custodial, kitchens, on the buses with the drivers to deliver the food and all that stuff. Now we're shifting again where the buses are rolling. So we're starting to pull the staff back in to the bus barn, and they're drivers now. So we don't have as much food delivery action going on with the buses. Now we've shifted food deliveries over to cars, and we're bringing in additional drivers to drive the cars. And that's where I'm going to turn it over to Joel so he can kind of, explain that a little better than I can.
Bet. Yeah, no, I will say it's been a challenge from the beginning. So the Rssl document has a section that's all about transportation. And early on we were told you had to have 6 feet apart. Then it was reduced to 3 feet. We were also told the back of the seat could be a barrier, and those rules were changing. So we've really been operating week to week from the beginning, a lot to what Mike was saying, and overall the whole thing, the whole arching piece that we get from the state. But we've been holding our own, and as we move forward, we have all our drivers kind of circling back into getting on and driving buses again. We have sub drivers we're bringing in. We just actually brought those sub drivers in to get them reacquainted with the equipment and trained, because they have been driving for a while. And like Mike mentioned, we have cars that we're going to start using, our staff cars, our district-owned staff cars to transport the food for. And quite frankly, Sarah's report mentions this, but we have 11 active placements in special services. So that means 11 buses headed out at any given time, or 11 different stops, might be 4 buses, but the buses are moving all day. And with limited in person in place, we have a morning route and a afternoon route. And when I met with Sarah today, we were discussing that by the time that we have all the 5th graders in place at Crest Lane, that's going to be our starting point to actually go back to our regular bus routes. It makes the most sense. Right now we have modified routes, and by the time we have all the 5th graders in place, that's meets the threshold of that much movement of students that we need to go back to our normal routes and have normal, doesn't mean normal start and stop times of the routes. I'm just saying we use our normal stops and normal routes for our transportation. I will put a plug in for Sarah and say that she's been phenomenal in doing all this, and it's been really wonderful. And I will also put in that one of the things that we were able to do, and this is where we adapt and we use tools that we have available to us. And this was kind of a big lift, but over the summer, we purchased and implemented new routing software. And that software it was modern enough that it had built-in cohort tracking for transportation, which has been very valuable. And so that routing software is really, really nice. And if anybody has any more questions about this or wants more details, I'd be glad to get that details for you, or even visit with you guys one-on-one and show you the routing software if you're curious about it. But I'm pretty proud of our transportation department and what we've been able to do.
So we still have restrictions, though, the 3 feet distancing
Right.
for our pickups and drop-offs, and we have to sanitize the bus, the entire bus, after one cohort is dropped off before that cohort or any other cohort gets back on the bus. So every time and the buses are going to be running twice as many times on those routes.
And what
Twice.
exactly, and what's kind of an interesting piece that some people don't know, we're responsible, a designated school bus, we're responsible 10 minutes before the bus arrives and 10 minutes after the bus leaves for that stop per the state of Oregon. So for example, if there was a fight at that location between students, they could be held to the guidelines and rules of the school that they belong to, because it's grounds that stop is school. And so that also means we have to maintain spacing at those stops too. So it's a real interesting challenge, but we're up for the challenge and we're doing the best we can.
That's the bus part. And then there's the food part. And then there's the teaching part. And then there's there's everything, any change that we make in operations has a ripple effect that goes all the way through the district. So every department has to have their head on a swivel to whatever I'm bringing in to make a move anywhere in the district, because it is going to impact every department in some way, either with an employee or with its procedures that they have in place. Yes.
Can you give a sense, Mike, for how many additional folks that you're needing to hire in order to move into hybrid? You mentioned earlier, janitorial, you're looking at a couple more folks, but I imagine there's other types of assistants and aides and teachers in order to make basically all of our classes half the size.
Well, we're also bringing in some good creativity into approaching this. This hybrid within a hybrid kind of thing, and having a virtual classroom from one teacher to 2 groups in 2 different cohorts in 2 different places is something that we're working on, so that we don't have to hire twice as many teachers to teach one cohort of teach 2 cohorts of 10, but basically splitting one classroom from a teacher in 2 places, and yet that teacher is teaching to both groups on site. So virtually to one group, but in person with the other, and then switching the next day to in-person with group B and virtually with the other. That's just one scenario that we're putting in, and Joel's pretty excited about that. I've been excited about that since last March, but now we actually see something like that that worked at the middle school. So he's working on that over there with Julie to see what the possibilities are. But that means that we're going to be purchasing more cameras, and we're going to need more EAs to supervise groups with a teacher. So what that number is, that we don't know yet. Our principals are working on that with the plans as we start to roll out in person. It really depends on the number of kids that are going to be coming in, and we don't know the full number of students that, we know what they've indicated on the survey, but when they get the phone call, that's a whole different story. It's kind of like, no, I'm not getting that vaccine. And then all of a sudden it's available. What do you do? Well, now it's a whole new decision-making process. So yeah, that's constantly going on. Another situation that's coming up is this whole thing around human resources and how we're going to facilitate all of the situations that are coming our way that we normally don't have a mass type of leave condition or leaves that we're looking at us all year long. I mean, we might have a maternity leave or a paternity leave or a sick leave or something like that, but we're talking about a COVID situation that could bring in long-term leaves, and many of them with all different scenarios and situations for different types of leaves. And that's a whole new department that we haven't had in this district. A communications piece of putting out all these communications on the changes that are happening. I mean, I'm putting them out as fast as I can to the community and to the staff, but I'm the one that is that communications person. I get them done, I ship them to Joel, he puts them out, and that's our system. That's our communication staff right there. That's, but everybody needs to know this information. And it has to be, and then there's and the reports that are due on the back of it too. I don't know, there's a lot of people, but we're going to need in each building, but we need to be able to support them all too and what they're doing. So we're kind of finding our way. We're constantly talking about it. Amy, go ahead.
Well, I could just speak for Crest Lane since we have already brought staff on site that we have been able to add some hours temporarily to some of our 4-hour and 5-hour employees, extending their day to be able to support the CDL and our in-person. So that's been really helpful to have those familiar, it's not having to bring in a new staff member, which takes a lot of training, especially in this unique situation. So we've been really fortunate to be able to add some time onto some of our current employees. And then we have hired 3 additional EAs here at Crest Lane and hoping to get another person. So we have a posting out there. Hopefully people are listening and will apply. We haven't had a giant amount of people because I would believe that a majority of the folks who are applying for those jobs are also, home with their kids too. So we do have some postings out there that we're looking for staff to fill some more of those roles in our buildings.
Did this slideshow help at all? Is it informative to you? Okay. I certainly don't want to waste your time on a Wednesday evening.
I appreciated seeing the structure of the information that you were getting for sure.
Okay, any other questions for Mike? Any comments?
I would just say, just like Lacey said, I really appreciated that. But Mike, I hope you never lose your wind in the way you communicate out. Transparency is everything, but you keep that wind going, buddy.
I'll do that.
All righty, any other comments or questions? If not, let's move along to board training. Just a couple quick comments. A couple of you have already talked to Steve about questions you have for the upcoming training session. It's next Wednesday at the 17th, and it's a 3-hour session. So it's up to you what time we start. And I'm assuming maybe around 6 o'clock would work, and that way you wouldn't be too late getting done with it. Is that okay with everybody, or do you have a different time you'd like to work with? Any questions or comments on that? 6 be okay?
Mike, how long did you say the training was scheduled for?
I think it's 3 hours from what I
3
first
hours.
heard.
Okay.
Mike confirmed. Yeah, 3 hours. So I'm thinking something like 6 to 9, and he's got enough questions, I think, that he'll be able to fill the time slot pretty well. And he's really good speaking off the cuff. So if we have any other questions you think of during the session, why, I'm sure he'll be able to answer them or update us on what's going on around the state and different things. So anyway, unless there's any negative comments, I'll try to get him set up for around 6 o'clock, and I'd like to see you all there, and we'll see if we can't learn something from Steve.
Hey, Mike, I won't
Yeah.
be able to attend that because I will no longer be a director, but I can assure you with confidence, I'm pretty sure I could teach what Steve's going to share to the board. And I'm really glad you guys are doing it, especially for the newer people. But I've been through the training several times. It's always a good refresher. And I think it's something that sticks with you the rest of your life. But I'm really proud of you guys for doing it again, especially for the new people.
Well, thank you. I think it'll be a good session. It really will. Okay.
Mike, before you move on, I just wanted to double check. We missed 8 vaccination update, but I know Mr. Johnson covered that a little bit in his number 7. So is there anything else, Mike, that you needed to add?
Well, we're wrapping it up this week with round 3, and that will cover everyone that's indicated to me they want one. Okay. And then we're not sure if there's going to be, well, I was told early on we'd have 4 rounds, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. So if we have another round, then I'm going to try to expand, out a little bit and see. If not, then I'll send those out back to Lane ESD, and they'll distribute those in another school district.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson, for letting me go back.
Yeah, hey, not a problem. No, if anybody has any questions, don't be bashful. I have a tendency to get in a hurry sometimes,
it's hard working through this digitally. So
yeah, I can't wait for the day that we have a room full of people that we can look at eyeball to eyeball and actually talk to with not having to push buttons.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, moving right along to number 10. Mr. Eusted's retirement, accepting his retirement letter. I guess we have to have a motion on that, huh?
What if we don't accept it?
Well, I thought about that.
That's why I asked Johnson. That's why I asked earlier, what was the count on that vote right out of the gate? And it was unanimous. I thought, well, maybe I don't need to stick around,
I hate to even bring this up, but we need to.
Mm-hmm. I regrettably move that we accept David Eusted's resignation letter from the board.
Do we have a second? Okay, Candace got a second.
Not because I want to, David, but I will second.
I'm keeping track of who's all these votes. Seconds. Jeez.
Discussion now, and I get my turn first this time. I've been around 8 years. Or 7 or 8 years, I guess it was. Marilyn tricked me. I thought it was going to be 2, but David has been somebody that has always been there for me when I have a question on a vote that's coming up or a situation that happened, or how to be a decent chair of the school board. And he's always answered me straight up. His focus has always been the kids first, and teachers and the administration. But he's always been full of information, and he's never told me how to vote, yes or no, or for this guy or that guy, but he's always been there for me. And I really appreciate you, bud. And I always want to be your friend, and I'm going to miss you a lot. Couldn't ask for better help. You've been great. And I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
But any other comments or questions?
I'm sure everybody has one, but I have one. I'll tell you what, when the going gets tough, I think about David. It gets a whole lot lighter and easier when I think about, just the support that he's given me, and constant, unconditional. And, this is an isolated position, but I haven't really felt that way at times. I know the decisions come down to it that way, but I've really always felt the support of the board. And I know David has really gone out of his way to make sure that I know that he is right there. And it motivates me, inspires me to keep on going.
Well, thank you, Mike. And just to comment on that, I am a person who, I think you came at the right time. You're what I used to say, some of the right man at the right time. And I really appreciate the heart you have for children and how you've been able to, just hold the stern steady through this most challenging times in these most recent months. And, we are all on the same team, and I just appreciate your leadership and how you communicate out. I've been a big fan, Johnson. It's not over yet.
So David, I'll say something, although it seems weird considering how well we know each other. Many of you probably know I'm only on the school board because David talked me into it. And I think he only talked me into it because he knew we didn't agree on more than we did agree on in policy sometimes. And but we could always have a great conversation and debate about it, and in a very respectful way. And that's one of my favorite things about you. And that you introduced me to my husband, who is a teacher at the school district and now has me very involved in many, many school activities. And
Yeah.
We all know you bleed red and black, that's for sure. You're a bulldog through and through. So we're going to miss you, Dave. I'll see you all the time, but we'll miss you at the school board.
Thank you.
David, I just wanted to say thank you for mentoring me for so many years. And you've become a great friend. That's why the tears are here. And I will always be praying for you and your family.
I really appreciate that, Lacey. And I've always believed in you and knew you were just amazing. And I'm a guy who I love very deep and care about a lot. And writing that letter was tough.
Mike,
Yeah,
could I say something to David?
yeah, sure.
David,
Hi,
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So I just want to ask you, do you remember that phone call about 12 years ago?
Yeah, I think you were going to pay my filing fee.
That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you, David. And you know how I feel.
I do.
And I'm going to say, I'll just see you later. I don't say goodbye. I say, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I don't say goodbye either. I
Oh,
never
good. Okay.
have, so.
You better keep track of me so I don't get in trouble.
Well, I did mean everything I wrote in that letter. I wrote it kind of later in the evening, and I think it sat there for quite a while before I hit send, and it was a little tough, but I hope you all know I really appreciate all of your efforts to be there for the children and our community and make our district the best, and how we support our administrators, educators, every employee of our school. And I love Creswell so very much. And I'm sorry I had to resign. Sorry, I'm a little, got an eyelash in my eye or something. But I have never liked the phrase cheerleader for myself, but I like to think that I have been a positive force in my years of service. And I'm so honored that I thank you all.
Well, thank you, sir.
I have such a deep respect and love for you. I'm
We
just
love you,
an old
David.
guy who loves deep.
We love you too, David.
I know.
David, I just want to say, I think it's so strange over the last, like, since I started here in Creswell, I think I've seen you in person twice. But I absolutely love your positivity, and I feel really bummed for all of us newbies that we won't get to have the time with you because of your positive energy and just so affirming to us all the time. We have hard jobs and don't always hear the positives, but you're always telling us what a great job we're doing. So secretly, if you want to shoot us an email every once in a while, we'd love it, because we know you'll be watching us from afar.
I will. I have to say, in all these Zoom meetings, I have to say, I think that you always make me the happiest when I see that smile. You're always smiling even when you're not smiling. And I just love that. That's something I really love about this new administrative team. You guys are so positive and so united. And even though I haven't really met you in person, I hope you have felt that I have believed in you guys. And I will meet you sometime. I'm a Creswell dude all the way through, and we've got a lot of changes, in this year, last year. But you have to look forward. Everything in life has a season, and I'm so grateful for my experience. And I'm not dying. It's not like that. And I just my heart hurts a little bit. But carry on, and thank you all for what you do every day. That's all I have to say. I'll see you at Weimar.
Hey, you got that. Oh,
You guys are gonna miss a little bit of my too much talkiness and my crazy humor, but sometimes it's good to be lighthearted in stressful times, and maybe I brought a little of that along the way. We've had a lot of serious times, like I wrote, being part of the finance committee, and what was the most challenging time. Lacey was there, and we managed through, and we came out on top. When we came through, we were our district was in, we were just as best we could because of what we did, and great team effort. And I'm all about team and communication. Why isn't there more? Because it's free, it's empowering. So why isn't there more transparency? So like I said, Johnson, don't lose that wind. I appreciate you guys all, and thank you for the kind words. And sorry I got an eyelash in my eye.
Any other comments or anything? Well, I hate to ask, but all those in favor of accepting, please raise your hand. Oh, I hate that. We got it. It carries, but thank you, Bud, for being there. I really appreciate you. All righty. Lacey, you want to read that resolution, please, for the classified?
Was Mark going to do that or not?
No, you were.
Oh, sorry. Yep, I've got it. I just got to turn my iPad back on. Sorry, it went to sleep. All right. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world, and whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system, and whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members, and whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety of maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students, and whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years. Our students throughout their school years. That I want to say our students every time I read that. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Creswell School Board of Directors proclaims March 1st through the 5th of 2021 to be Classified Employee Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Creswell School Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals.
All righty, well, thank you very, very much. Okay, trustee reports. Mark, have you been up to anything? Is he there?
Here I am.
Oh, okay.
No, not really, other than helping with the distance learning with my grandkids and working on my leadership points for OSBA. And that's about it.
Well,
Alrighty.
Mark does read all my articles, by the way.
I wasn't going to say that I spend most of my time reading all of Mike's articles, but they're very informative, Mike. Keep them coming. It increased my knowledge base exponentially.
Okay, Lacey, you want to go?
I've just participated in our leadership meetings, and every Sunday night I am hosting a budget class for families in Creswell, and that is going really well, I think. So that's it for me.
Ashley?
I participated in a policy committee meeting.
Okay. Deb?
Oh, sorry, my computer's not working. The east side's we're slow tonight, but I really haven't done much. I came straight from a booster board meeting tonight to this, and trying to brainstorm some ideas to get some things out there for those kids when they come back and play some sports. So that's about all I've done.
Okay, Candace?
I've been lucky enough that I have been able to participate in 2 softball practices a week. I'm wearing my softball sweatshirt. You can't see it this time. So getting to spend lots of time with the girls, which they are delightful and smart and very focused, and they're great to work with. And then on the days we're not doing that, I'm generally helping Scott check in boys at football practice, who are also very kind and sweet and very pleasant to be around. So it was exciting tonight. They all got their helmets, and we got to see, they're starting to get excited about things. So that's been what I've been doing this last month.
Oh, cool. Lots of dirty clothes coming through.
Yeah, my floors are a lot muddier than they were a few weeks ago now that practices have started. So.
David, what have you been up to?
You're on mute. You're on mute, David.
You're muted.
How's that?
Yeah, there.
Better. Ever since COVID hit, I don't have such a long trustee report. I used to always report out all these games, all these concerts, everything I was going to. But I think this last month, I have to say, I just wrote that letter the other day, but I think that's what I've been doing all month, is like dreading writing that letter and having to send it. And so that's kind of my last trustees report, but I would just say what an honor and privilege it's been. And I'm so proud of each of you so much. And I plan to stay in touch.
Oh, thank you. I hope you do. I hope you do. Myself, besides the leadership meeting, I've been going to Lane ESD, well, virtually Lane ESD meetings every month. And I learned how they allocate or who allocates the vaccines. But the more I'm around that group, I'm really glad that I do a lot of business with those guys, because they're really focused, and like you all are, is focused on the kids and how to make situations better for the kids. And I think it's really, really a good group. But other than that, that's about all I've done. Okay, I think that's everybody. Okay, any questions in business? Just moving down the list. For
Chanel,
Anna? What's that, Mike?
if there's no questions, I think Chanel is going to talk a little bit about her new software program.
Oh, sure. Okay, is she out there?
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Did anyone have any questions on the new format of the board report for financials?
Chanel, this is Lacey. I didn't have a question on the format, but there were two funds that showed a forecasted negative ending fund balance. But I'm assuming that you're planning on transferring more money into those. That was the nutrition fund and then the sports fund. So,
yes.
Okay. And then as you're transferring more from the general fund into those two, did you already account for those transfers in your general fund forecast? So that cash outflow is already considered?
It's not. There's
Okay.
a few adjustments still to make, and
Okay.
Fund 275 was one we were playing with up until Friday.
Okay.
Making some adjustments and forecasting out, because we plan, since we're going to open back up, we're forecasting a little more than prior. So if you compare it to last month's board report, there's some differences.
Got it. Okay. Understandable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Anybody have questions for Joel? Or Joel, you have any comments on what's going on?
Yeah, I'd like to share that next month I'll be able to share some new hires with you folks, both from technology and facility side, custodial side. So I'm pretty excited about that. We did some hiring in the last 2 weeks. Amy Aguero has been a big asset for that and helping. And so I'm pretty excited about profiling those folks for you. But yeah, you can see that what's interesting, I'd make a note that the state reporting section of my report, it's kind of interesting because it fits kind of that thing as far as Rssl, SL piece that we're still getting from the state. Meanwhile, business as normal still continues. There's still state reports that are due. We still have to report on things to the state of Oregon, even though it's not a normal year. So it's been an interesting challenge in that respect. And so I broke down the ADM piece for you guys there as well, because there's a lot of information that gets pulled out of there, fall membership numbers and stuff like that. But anyway, I also wanted to highlight the fact that we really are now past the halfway mark. So our student information system has this really cool graph when you first log in. It gives you a percentage. And so quite literally, when I made this report up, I was in the student information system and it said 50% completed, 50% remaining. We were literally at the halfway mark when I wrote that for the school year for students. And it's hard to believe. It's crazy.
Any questions for Joel? Okay, if not, any questions for
Mark? Mark does.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So Joel, I see that our construction, our seismic upgrades have been moved out to June, September 2022. Is that correct?
Yes. And and I'll have more information on that too, because we're fine tuning what that schedule looks like. And that gives us a lot more flexibility in doing a design that's correct and design that's right. COVID has been a huge burden. Obviously, we've been talking about that tonight. There's a theme here, right? But in construction and with seismic, we want to do this job right. We want to have this job be completed correctly. We want to get the best bang for our buck. We want to be efficient. And to do that, we decided to put off the construction for not this summer, for next summer. It gives us more time to get a sharpening our pencil, I suppose, and do it correctly. It also pushes right close to the end, because the grant funds end October of 21 or 2020. Yeah. Not this October, but the following
22.
22.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are literally going to end that project and be right at the end of our quarterly receiving of some, well, we get paid reimbursed as we spend. And as we start spending money, I'll start reporting on that as well. That'll probably be incorporated into the business report as well. So you'll probably see some doubling up of information there. But I want to make sure you guys are along for the ride and get to hear and see all the good information coming along. And what could be happening if we're doing construction, not this summer, but for the next, it's possible that if we get granted at the high school, maybe we have 2 sites under construction, which, that'll be exciting.
Yes. And right now, the scope is the new entrance. I assume that's the one into the superintendent's office.
Yeah. So that piece, thank you for paying attention and reading those notes. That's really cool. Thank you. Yeah. So that's one of those things where we want to design it correctly. And that's also an efficiency. So that may not be picked up by the seismic. Well, there's no may. That won't be picked up by the seismic funds.
Oh.
We can't pay for a new entrance to the middle school, to the district office with seismic funds, but we can be efficient with our dollars, because if we're tearing into the wall, and we will be, to make repairs and make the seismic for those entry doors for the main building right next to Mike's office, since we're going to be doing repairs right there, why don't we be efficient and use part of the seismic funds that's going to repair those doors and add the ability for maybe a walk breezeway and a door that's a separate safe entrance into the district office. So there will be some funds that we may have to expenditure out of our general funds. And I'll talk more about that as we get closer to it and have harder numbers for you guys. But I'm glad you picked that up, because that's something we will definitely need to talk about as we move along. But it's really trying to be efficient with the design and efficient with our monies and get the best piece out of the best bang for our buck.
Cool. Thank you.
We also want to stick to our safety plan for each campus. And that's been identified as a safety issue for compromising the security of Crest Lane Elementary School.
Well, and exactly. And along those lines, I'm hoping, I don't want to jinx me by saying this, but I'll say it anyway. There are grants out there, safety grants, one of them being that we have been successful to. We've gotten the $25,000 grant at Crest Lane that paid for the buzz-in system that we have there. We have the $30,000 grant that paid for the one we have at the high school. Well, we can reapply for those. And I'm hoping when that comes up again in the fall that I can present a plan for perhaps the buzz-in for the district office, which also could helps offset the cost for that new entry, so that we can mitigate how much money we have to come out of the general fund. So I'm trying to be creative and trying to plan ahead. These are months ahead. So let's hope I didn't just jinx myself by saying all that, but fingers crossed, and we'll get this done.
Well, you are creative. That's for sure. And we appreciate it. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, any questions for transportation that we didn't cover earlier? If not, moving right along. Amy, are you still out there?
I'm here. Yes.
Any comments you want to make?
I think, writing the board report is always a tricky thing for my lens, because there's so much that it's happening and the work of these administrators and the school sites. I mean, this is an awesome team, but there's a lot going on right now. So I guess just a couple of things to highlight from that report, or in addition to, I want to go back to the transportation piece and just note that Sarah and her team are just doing a phenomenal job. We have students that she is picking up out in the Drina area. She's delivering, or will be soon delivering, to Marcola area. We're going to Eugene, Springfield. We have kiddos all over the county, and really some who are very impacted on social, emotional, and even behaviorally. And I really want to just give another shout out to her, because she really is doing a phenomenal job problem solving with our team. Another big lift that's been happening that is not mentioned in that board report is just the fact that as we're bringing students on campus, we also host life skills classrooms in our elementary and middle school sites. And so through the collaboration with both Amy and Christy and Julie, and then that life skills teams and all the other individuals that support those classrooms, there's been a huge lift just to make sure that we have all the medical, the social, the academic supports in place to help support a safe and effective onboarding of those students, those select students that are going to be invited back to our campuses. And that's a really comprehensive planning process as we look to bringing back students of all abilities. And I guess just overall, I really, our team has done a phenomenal job. You'll note on that board report that Anna Carter is one of our special education teachers who's been assigned to a very different role this year. She serves in the capacity of supporting our students on the online academy, but also supporting students. So at special education, every 3 years, we look at re-evaluating to see if they remain eligible to receive special education services. And she has been the point person for the re-evaluation, so helping with that rollover of IEPs and eligibility and testing. And so it's a very unique and different role, but she, as you see in there, has requested a grant and is really working to engage students on campus and on the online platform, keeping them engaged. So she's really doing some above and beyond work to help support students and engagement processes there.
I can actually report that grant's been funded.
Well, thank you, Joel.
We funded that grant, so congratulations.
Yeah, so she requested $1,000, and that is, as Joel mentioned, has been granted, and that will be used to help support students K through 12th grade in bridging, again, that academic engagement and social engagement that she's working hard to do with students. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions.
Amy, I have a quick one on that. What is it? OPR training, the suicide training classes. Is that something that's going to happen at the school?
So that will be, yes. So that will be done through Zoom. Our students on the different sites, the instructors will be reaching out. We'll be doing 2 different sessions. One will be through middle and high school, or 4, middle and high school staff. And then the other will be for our elementary age.
Is that something that would be appropriate for one of us board members to watch that?
You absolutely, not only just to observe the process, but also I think the practice and the training would be relevant in a lot of different capacities.
Yeah, I'd really be interested if I could get a time and stuff. I'd like to see that if I possibly could.
Absolutely. Why don't I work with Joel or whoever you would like me to in terms of getting that information and Zoom link sent to whoever on this committee would like to be involved.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
School.
I'm sorry?
Oh.
The high school is scheduled to go next week on the 17th for the QPR training.
What time of day is that?
It's 1 to 3.
Okay.
So I can send that out or make sure that Amy has it.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, Jenny. And both trainings will be very similar, but geared toward that age group, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the content will be very parallel content.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Any questions for Amy? Anybody out there? Amy at the elementary school, are you there? I know she was.
I'm here. I'm here.
You have any comments for us?
Do I have comments? Oh boy. Well,
25 words or less.
Yeah, I don't know that can happen, but writing this board report this month was so hard because everything's changing so rapidly. And even since writing that, there's updates and such that I'll be sharing out with families. But we had kids on campus this week, and it was huge. It was amazing. Our staff, the folks who were interacting with the kids, they were on cloud 9, and it made all this really hard work worth it. So who knew that 2 hours with students on site would be such a game changer, but it was the morale boost we all needed.
Great.
Well, I forgot how tiny kinders are. And see those little teeny bodies and those little teeny desks with those big old masks was something that was a sight. And they're so responsible with their mask wearing. Oh my gosh. So talk about it, Amy. How's your rollout going? Tell us.
Well, it's going well. I think there's a lot of nerves leading up to bringing students back, just because we want to make sure we're doing all these things correctly. Our teachers are very veteraned and skilled at school, but all of these things are new to us. So there was a lot of kind of build up. But once we got them here, one teacher said to me, they came and I knew what I was doing. Like, yes, you do know what you're doing. You are a professional. You know exactly what to do with those students. So our kids, we put together some safety videos that we pushed out. Christy and I created another video for parents that we're going to send out. It's 35 long minutes, but just to kind of give an overview for families of all the different aspects of, the things that we have in place. So we have all the protocols in place. We're bringing in right now small groups. So students are coming 1 or 2 days a week, and the teachers are primarily just focusing on teaching them those routines and how to sanitize. And, the kindergarten kids spend a lot of time practicing walking in the hall where they're not all touching each other and, bunching up. And one of the comments from one of our teachers, our kindergarten teachers, was, usually for kindergarten, especially those first few days of school, there's a lot of tears and separation anxiety, and just it's hard for the teachers and staff because these kids are just brand new to us. We don't know anything about them, but our kids came back. We didn't have one kindergartner cry. We actually had one that was super sad to leave and didn't want to leave. And the parents, there was none of that. They just stood at their cars and waved, and they walked in like big kids, and the teachers had this relationship already built with them. So the transition was really smooth. It was very encouraging because I think that was one of our, we just didn't know what to expect when they got here. So tomorrow our first graders will be joining us, and our first grade teams, we're kind of observing the process, peeking in onto those classrooms just to spy and see how it was going. So they also were feeling really good about bringing kids. They're excited. I don't know what else to talk about other than it's been amazing. And it's exciting to keep building and bringing more groups here to campus. So this week we'll have our morning group of students on site for connectivity, which is a second through fifth grade group of kids. And then our kinder and first grade teachers, we're offering limited in-person instruction to all students who wanted to be on site because they really wanted to focus on transitioning them to hybrid. So they're kind of using it as the traditional soft start that we would have in kindergarten anyways, and orienting them back to being on campus. So I think we'll have about 114 students total this week on site. And then next week we'll be rolling up to our second grade classes that are going to do a very similar model of kind of treating this more of an orientation for kids and building stamina to be back at school.
Oh, wow. Any questions out there? Your comments? Yeah, Candace.
So your board report is very detailed. I appreciate it. It's very nice. I was looking at the tentative return calendar, which also I appreciate, a graph. And do you have kind of idea, not necessarily when 4th and 5th is coming back, but when you'll be making that decision on, or how long you need before you feel comfortable making that decision?
Well, I met with my team today, and then we have some dates. I'm going to process that with our administrative team, and then push that out to families on Friday. So my plan kind of here on out, because this is going to be a long rollout process, as you saw in my calendar, is to send out a weekly update to families just so they know what's happening, especially in the event if things change, if we end up having to press pause, if we have an increase in cases and we're not allowed to bring more groups on. I want to keep people. The hardest part, you know, I'm a parent, and the school district my kids have been in, I've gotten like 5 emails this year with dates, and that's really hard to have dates that then get changed. And so it was hard to put those dates out there knowing that it potentially can change, because of, like Mike said earlier, we can't count on much other than COVID's going to be the leader of all of this in terms of our ability to bring kids on site. So once we have that process, I'll share out the dates for our 4th and 5th grade. But I will say that 4th and 5th grade, we're looking at hybrid happening after spring break, and we're going to allow for a time period, just assuming that there'll be some vacations over spring break. So we want to get everyone back home and make sure that everyone's not going to become sick before we bring them on site.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Any other questions or comments?
No, I just wanted to say, Amy, I love watching your Facebook posts. Like, I think you do such a good job of communicating on there. And I love the one where it says, it said that I know you from my iPad. Like, I appreciate reading that stuff. It's a good way for me to stay connected because I don't have kids in the district anymore. And so I love that. And I just thought it was great.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for what you do. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving right along. Julie, are you still there?
Yes, sorry. I had
And
to
100 words were
remove
last
my
one.
dog from the office because he was snoring and no one was getting my text to come get the dog who was snoring. So sorry about that. I didn't want the snoring dog in the back of my reports. I'm just really pleased with my staff, quite frankly. They are going above and beyond for kids. And I can say that as both the principal and a parent of a 6th grade student at Creswell Middle School. They're offering such a great program through CDL. So I just want to say that. And I also want to thank the office staff and the custodial staff and everyone who's really stepped up and volunteered to help roll out our limited in-person instruction for students. As of tomorrow, we'll be on our 2nd cohort of 20. So we'll have 40 students. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be having our life skills students, who again are some of our most impacted students. So we'll be up to 50 students. And I'm sure you saw the phase-in plan. My hope, as long as everything goes as planned, would be that we could start returning students back to campus in kind of a hybrid model after spring break. So my staff is diligently planning what that would look like, what continued CDL classes would be offered, while also focusing on some of the things that students are missing right now by not being in person. So that's kind of been our focus. And some of you have actually kids at my school, but we had a school-wide Valentine's Day bingo today in Zoom. I would say we had almost 200 kids participate school-wide, which is pretty amazing. Kids sending in, it was I Love Tires Day, and kids were sending in photos. And so we're doing our best to try and make it fun when, you know, there are days when this is not fun and we can't all go to restaurants and we can't all do things that we love to do. And so we're just doing our best to make school fun, even online.
And you guys started Intramurals today.
We did, and a huge shout out to Brandon and the coaches and volunteers who are helping supervise that and make it safe. I know as a sports mom, I'm very excited to see kids out there being active. I just think it's so important, and we have lots of kids who are signing up to participate in that. So good job to Brandon for kind of making that happen and organizing that as well. And I didn't shout out to Joel, but I need to, because he's always up for my crazy ideas. Like, hey, Joel, can you come over here and try this? And so I do think that when we start bringing students back in person, we're going to be able to really offer a strong quality program for kids who are home and kids who are at school.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Jenny, are you still there?
I am still here. Yep. Hopefully my internet is not glitchy and I'm not freezing or sounding like a robot. So we are really excited that sports is moving forward, and that is in the board report. And I think Brandon kind of spoke to that already, but that it's been great to see kids on campus to participate in the workouts that were happening earlier. And this week we had our leadership kids in. There were 16 of them that have come to do their training so that we can have our freshmen on campus next week for freshman orientation. We're going to bring them in classes. They are all taking a career exploration course in college and career readiness course. And so we are bringing them in by class and then dividing them and doing tours. And so really happy to get them into our school just to be a part of the high school, because they haven't had that experience yet as incoming freshmen. And then the following week, we have biology lab scheduled for freshmen as well. And I just worked on the calendar this afternoon to put some club activities on there, chemistry, physics. We have our forecasting dates scheduled for the upcoming school year. So our calendar is taking shape. Because we started a new term, teachers are seeing a new set of students. So it's going to take us a couple weeks to kind of identify those that might need to come in for specific help classes. Based on having new teachers. But we took some time today to kind of outline those that we know need to come in to take care of some business and be on campus. And we're just excited to get them here. So.
Oh, thank you. Any questions at all? If not, I have a quick question for Brandon. When are they going to put on the pads, and is there going to be a game in the near future for football?
Quite possibly. The guidance came out today with some changes. Mike and I will have to meet and kind of go through logistics once we get the actual specific guidance and not just the press release, which I haven't received yet. But essentially the plan is conditioning practice this week. Provided, like I said, we get the guidance and expectations, because we are still an extreme county metric, so that dictates a little bit for us. Within the next week is when they're able to start putting helmets on and then going through the normal OSA progression. Essentially a couple of days with helmets, a couple of days with helmets and shoulder pads, and kind of building themselves up to the following week to go in full contact. And then as of right now, the first scheduled football game would be March 5th.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. All righty. Well, thank you. Any other questions? If not, is Christy around? Or no, Candace, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I have one question. Are we gonna have seniors on campus at any time soon? Are there gonna be any senior activities coming together?
Yeah, we are working on getting those. Sorry, I have to unmute myself. Working on getting the schedule put into place to get them on campus, but they are also coming in individually to work with Angela in regards to their college applications and all of that kind of stuff. So even though we don't have specific set groups on the calendar right at the moment, we are getting them in for individual appointments with her. So she started scheduling those with students who've reached out, and then is going to go back and do a schedule with those who haven't reached out.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, is Christy still here, Mike?
I don't see her.
For the tech team thing?
No, I don't see her in there, but I asked her to submit that report to you all so you could see what kind of how we're organizing things to be able to support the district. the district online. And one of them is with this technology team. And Joel is a member on that committee as well. Christy is leading it. And we have members on that committee from each building. And so those members are representing what the building needs are, and then coming into this committee to process it, and then reporting back out to their building, to their respective buildings. Joel can talk a little bit more about it, specifically how that's been going in the meetings, but we have a full committee of really dedicated people that are tech savvy. I mean, this is a high tech team. So, but I'll let Joel talk about it a little bit there.
Yeah, no, it's been really nice. The instructional support to our staff for technology has been phenomenal, and the idea that you have peer-to-peer support, a coaching environment is just that's how you excel. That's how it really goes well. And I can say that you have this district committee that Christy's leading, but then you have the building level ones that are happening, and I'm seeing those emails and communications. And Julie, you know what I'm talking about at the middle school. You just did some training on that was individualized for the middle school because it was recognized it wasn't necessarily needed at the other two buildings, but you guys needed it. So that shows the flexibility, and it shows the skill set and stuff. So the meetings have been very well. This been very well attended, very well organized, and the collectedness, or the problem solving and getting everybody to the table and coming up with solutions to help our peers, our colleagues, it's just been really, really wonderful to see. And I'm glad to see that it's going to continue through as we have challenges ahead of us, because we'll still continue to see a CDL and have students off campus, but we'll have students now on campus. And so there's that technology piece back and forth, and also just technology in the classrooms. And so I'm really excited about that. And they've been, Mike said it well, that they're a good group. It's a really good group.
Okay, any questions for Joel? Okay, Mike, you're up.
Okay, first, I tell you, this A team that you're looking at here on the screen is relentless. Their commitment and dedication is unbelievable. They, from the get-go, when we shut down in March, or even before that, they were up and running. That old analogy of building the plane while it's in the air. We've been doing that from the day we all stepped into the district, since these new folks come in. But they were on board with us, the new folks that are in this screen, in the spring, before they even arrived to get on board with this team. They were on board with this team. They weren't even working in our district yet. And we have continued to lean on each other and collaborate to make these kind of impossible things happen. And with the situation that we're in, not that every schoolhouse wouldn't open and run to some level, but to the highest level possible takes a tremendous amount of commitment and dedication, and a lot of sacrifice of their personal lives. And I know they've done it without vacations and things like that, time off. But they just have stepped up to the challenge. At every corner, they're there. And when I turn to the right, I see that team. They're all there together. And I can't tell you how that feels. It's a very rare, unique situation for one district to have a team that's this complete. And in a small district, God, that just is going to take us over mountains, this group and the attitude that they have. When the governor shut the district down, we didn't even know where we were going. I had no clue. No one did. And when we got a clue, it was like happening yesterday for us. It wasn't happening. We had no runway getting into it. And this team came together when I said, we got to figure something out here. We did over that spring break. And the governor had 2 or 3 specific orders out about essential staff and things that had to happen, that were required to happen, like meals for kids and distribution and things like that. So I had the A team here to the right. And when I looked to the left, I mean, if we didn't have classified folks, there wasn't going to be anybody there. And this is Classified Appreciation Week. And I can tell you that they stepped up to it. Buses were taking food out. The kitchen folks were in there getting the breakfast and lunches ready. Joel and Sarah were calling families to find out who needed meals, how we could get them to them, and all that stuff, and setting up a schedule for pickup lunches and sanitizing every room throughout the district. And all that happened within a week. This classified team across the district is a force to reckon with. And they have not given up. They have been working in this district with kids, going out into the community with kids from the time we shut down. And if there's a time to salute the force, boy, I tell you, we got some good people to talk about them. I just wanted to mention that because it is classified. I appreciate them every day, but I will always remember that was the most scary time that I've known of in my career. Even when I went into my first classroom, I had kind of a clue of what I was walking into. But that week she shut down, there was not a hint of what we were going to be doing. In fact, she said we were only going to be closed down until the end of spring break. And she announced that during spring break that we were going to be shut down, period. And so this team pivoted like boom. And heck, I was only on the job 6 months. Some of them were only on the job 3 months, or well, same amount of time maybe. Or that time or less. Half of this group wasn't even on the job yet, and they were working for us. So it was crazy. But it's been fun. Yep. So in looking at my report, I provided you with some Rssl news. That list of things there, if you need any information on that. I was processing this with all the superintendents across the state and OSBA and PACE and ODE and Coke Gill Monday and Tuesday. And I'll be back to this on Thursday. By gosh, that's tomorrow, with Lane County Public Health, and then with the superintendents again to finish up for clarity and implementation of some of those things. Wanted to talk a little bit about the metrics, just so you know, in Lane County, we're in both Lane County and Creswell, we're still in the extreme risk category. And in Lane County, as I mentioned earlier, I think things are going well. 3 weeks ago, we were at 283 per 100,000, kind of looking like we might be going over 300 again. But it went down to 225 last week per 100,000. And on this Monday, it was at 207 per 100,000. So a steady decline there. The trend had been going down, which is really good news. But it still puts us in the elementary on-site and hybrid transition category in the orange, which in there it says prioritize careful phasing in of on-site or hybrid elementary schools. Lippy only in secondary schools. And then down below that category in a blue box, it says when trends are increasing. Okay, we're seeing a decreasing trend in the county rates. That helps us. When we look at Creswell rates, we see an increasing trend. 3 weeks ago, we were at 244 per 100,000. Last week, we're at 256 per 100,000. And then this week, Monday, we're at 268 per 100,000. So we're but we're still in that window where we can phase in elementary grades one at a time, careful phasing in, and Lippy at the secondary level 6 through 12. And we are maximizing the opportunities in this window right now. And we will be for the next couple of weeks. Our goal has been to get what we can get in before spring break, because after spring break, if the metrics go up in both categories or go over 350, then we cannot increase more. We can stabilize, but we cannot increase. So we have to pause on expanding more on-site stuff. So our principals know this, or all this A team does. And so they're quickly working to get things set up in this window and happening in our schools, knowing that out of the corner of our eyes, we're looking at those 2 case rates and knowing that that's going to have an effect on us. Hopefully not, but we have to be quick about what we're doing when we can do it, but also not to do too much so that we're inconsistent if something does happen and we have to pivot the other direction. So, any questions on any of it? That's all I think I want to take up.
Any questions out there? Mike, I think you and all the admin team and the teachers and everybody, it's absolutely amazing to me what you guys have done. I've never seen a situation where the rules are changing every day, all 168 of them, and you have to comply. And yet the focus is on the kids. How do we help the kids? How do we feed the kids? How do we get them in school? I'm just amazed at what you guys have accomplished. It's just unbelievable. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. Everybody in the buildings are all working together. I mean, it just goes on and on. I think you guys are all doing just a wonderful job. 168 rules in my job. I don't know if I follow 3 of them, but anyway, thank you very much, all of you, for what you do. I really appreciate it. Any other comments for the good of the order? Or
yeah, hey, this is David, and I just want to tap on to what Mike just shared. It's amazing, the leadership team that is built here, and the passion that each of you have for every student and everybody that works in the district and for their families. And I have to say, upon my exit, I'm just so proud of where our district is. And I just want to thank Mike for his leadership, and to each of you as board members. But this admin team, it's amazing, and just keep up the great work and never lose that passion for children. I think that's where it's all at. That's where it's at. And you guys are just tremendous people. I'm glad to be so associated with each of you. And those of you that I haven't met, well, I'll be meeting you at some point. So keep up the great work. And Brandon, go Bulldogs, huh? All right. You look good.
David, don't be a stranger.
Wow.
Alrighty. If no other comments, remember next
Mike?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Mark was trying to mention something earlier. Okay, he's saying no. All right, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss an opportunity for him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't see him on my screen. Sorry about that, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Remember the training next Wednesday, and I'll get a time, confirm it, try to make it at 6 and get a word out to everybody. But other than that, thank you all for what you do, and thank you all for being here. And we'll catch up with you next time. And go
Thank you, Mike. You did great.
Go
Thank you,
Bulldog.
David.
Thank you.